Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who is on special leave, says President Cyril Ramaphosa was briefed on the disbandment of the political killings task team and agreed to it. Mchunu was testifying for a second day at the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee probing allegations of political interference in the police force.
Did the President agree to the disbandment of PKTT?
The answer in the affidavit is that I briefed the President, he agreed with the briefing I gave him.
So, Honorable Minister, is the answer yes?
Yes, as is in the affidavit.
The answer is yes. The answer which we must record is yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's revisit some of the highlights from the Senzo Mchunu testimony this week with security strategist and former Interpol ambassador Andy Mashaile. A very good morning to you, Andy. Thanks very much for your time. I want to start with that clip that we played, where the suspended police minister says he actually briefed his boss, the president, and the president agreed with him. A game changer, if indeed it was to be proven to be true, isn't it?
It would be a game changer for you if it was proven to be true. But what piqued my interest is when the evidence leader, SC RNC, kept on asking the minister whether the minister informed or consulted the president before the fact. And he considered that he informed the president post the fact, meaning after he had dispatched that letter of the 31st of December 2024. He went to the president. He couldn't remember the date, whether it was in January or February. This suggesting to me, Vuyo, my brother, that this was not a discussion and a presentation of the cost-benefit analysis and many other challenges, but it was just a short period as he struggled to tell us the amount of time that he spent with the president. He just informed the president. And my analysis of the statement and the data that he has put before us in responding to the questions of the SC suggests that he just informed the president. He didn't go into the details.
Ex post facto, and he also, of course, considered that he never consulted people who were integral to the work of the political killings task team, namely the National Police Commissioner, the head of the project, as well as the Provincial Police Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, which I would imagine added to what you've just said, then somewhat weakens his case.
It does. And also, you and I listened to him saying he solely took that decision. And what does this mean for people like you and I who are analyzing these things? The question that I asked myself is, did he not touch sides with the members of the interministerial committee that was established to oversee the operations of the PKTT as given birth to by the project management committee that was led by Ntate Dumsani Kumalo, and talking about whether this was a task team or a unit. This was just a task team, as I'm correcting myself after engaging with one of the ex-elders in this business, Vuyo, when we had a debate earlier on today. A task team comes from a unit. In the murder and robbery unit, for an example, you would set up a task team that deals with a specific murder of police or something like that. So the difference between the task team and the unit, I mistakenly compared the cost-benefit analysis with that of the special task force, which is a permanent component on the police structure or organogram.
Well, I mean, budget reprioritization was, which you've just touched on, one of the reasons he put forward as among several, which he said informed his decision, together, of course, with a new structure that he said had been or was discussed, and the political killings task team wasn't part of that structure. And he added to his reasons the issue of concerns that were raised with him by such people as Mary de Haas, who wrote letters to him, but also members of the a very political killings task team, whom, of course, he couldn't name or decided to, or whose names and identities he wanted to keep under arrest for reasons he actually furnished the ad hoc committee with. But he did, in short, put forward his reasons for disbanding the political killings task team.
Well, one of the reasons that surprises us would be to say you have evidence that Lieutenant Ntantam Kwanazi on a recording, which we assume, given Poppy and Rika, that was obtained illegally. You have evidence that has also helped you to disband the PKTT for reasons that you have advanced. And upon investigations of the audio recordings, you pick up there is no portion on that recording that speaks to the issue of threats. So the responses of this nature and the evidence, I want to say the empty evidence that you put up, further alienates public sentiment, the sentiment of those who are sitting in the ad hoc committee from the position of advantage that you want to create for yourself. And I think on Wednesday, when it's question time by the ad hoc committee members, sparks are going to fly, and there's going to be a serious firefight with regard to one of the things that I just brought into the discussion. How do you record someone else without their consent? That amounts to a criminal offense, violation of Poppy and violation of the RICA, as it were.
But then, I mean, this was a conversation between Lieutenant General Mkwanazi and the minister's chief of staff, who would have had the chief of staff, that is, every right to record a decision that he would, a conversation that he would have been part of.
Vuyo, you heard the minister, he said, as their conversations went on, because of the experience that he had, he was thinking something might crop up here. And then he said, he advised the chief of staff, and he said, record. Now, even if the chief of staff wanted to record his private conversations, as long as I am engaging with you, Vuyo, and we are talking on the line, if I am going to record you, I have a legal responsibility to advise you, Vuyo, that I am going to record you. There is a concept that is shared in Latin that says, ignorantia legis neminem excusat. The law excuses no one. Whether I'm your friend or you are my friend, if I'm going to record you, I must let you know. The law is not going to excuse me because we are friends and I've recorded you, and therefore what I am going to share with other people becomes a challenge.
But if in the bigger scheme of things, let's say someone is willing or prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he suspected that there was something was cooking, and it may amount, say, to, and I'm being hypothetical here, I'm aware, it may amount to a security threat. Let's say he was convinced in his own mind that he was doing the right thing and suspected that there was going to be a great deal of pushback, which may even include either illegality or a serious threat, let's say, to the country's security. And he felt he needed to collate as much evidence as he could, and perhaps he felt that this was an opportunity, and went ahead, even though he may have been risking it. Would you give him that benefit of a doubt?
That's why we have courts. You go get a court order, and you do things, especially in that office. You do things within the confines of the law. I can imagine if that recording was done without my consent, and you go to court, and then I argue admissibility and say I didn't give consent to that recording. The court will come to a conclusion that says this is not admissible. Your evidence is not admissible. So I would advise you, Vuyo, if you do this in our conversation and you suspect that I want to steal or hijack your car or be involved in cash in transit heist, I will advise that you go to the nearest court and you apply for the necessary court order that will then allow you to record our conversation so that you can turn them over to law enforcement agencies.
Is there something, I mean, you're saying earlier that you reckon MPs are going to tear his testimony apart or lay into him, I'm paraphrasing here, but what could still save him, assuming that he acted with honesty and really believed in the reasons he actually put forward as his reasons for taking this decision?
Vuyo, if you could have come out straight and say, Andy and your team, I spoke to the president and I didn't give him the details. I just informed him and I took this decision on my own, or I agreed with those who are in the interministerial committee and they supported me. And I thought because we were given the mandate by the president, we could come up with a strategy and tactic that will help us save money in the form of taking the budget of the PKTT, redirecting it to the murder and robbery units at various stations. Maybe your argument would be acceptable to the ad hoc committee members. Remember, in there, you have political organizations who want to prove a point that the minister is incompetent. The minister cannot make decisions. The minister is related to criminal gangs or the underworld through this or that behavior. And this or that behavior means dismantling or disbanding or disestablishing the PKTT, which is the core of the argument of one and all who are accusing the minister of overreaching and doing what he's not supposed to do because he has an agenda, a personal agenda, if you wish, that he wants to exercise in the protection of his friends, one of them being Ntate Brown Mokhotsi. This is the argument that you will get. And the line of questioning, I can bet with you now, Vuyo, the line of questioning will lead in the direction that wants to portray him as a weak, incompetent man or a corrupt man or a clueless man with regard to the operations of his office and that of his operations.
Andy Mashaile, looking back, of course, at the testimony of suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who insisted before Parliament's ad hoc committee that he didn't breach any law, he committed no offense. He stood by his letter, saying he was actually within his right to do what he did. Next week, of course, he'll be facing a barrage of questions from members of that ad hoc committee. And as usual, we'll be bringing you that session live here on Newzroom Channel 405.